येषां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि।
Namaste and welcome to KYG or Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam. We are now on to the fourth sutra of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And with this fourth sutra, we complete what I can call the orientation to the 196 sutras, the path that details out our inward journey. Like I said earlier, the first four sutras is a summary, a bird's eye view of what is this yoga all about, what is the goal of yoga, what is the path of yoga, and all of this. And Patanjali places all of this as an outline right in the very beginning. That is a style of ancient teachings and ancient scriptures. So Patanjali has also followed a similar style where in the first four sutras he gives us a summary of what to expect. And after this, if these four sutras intrigue you further, then you can take it up for deeper study to understanding what more about the Vrittis, more about the Chitta, more about Samadhi, and so on and so forth. Thus, he has divided, or rather the scholars perhaps later, when I say later, it's even at least 1,000 years, 1,500 years earlier, they divided Patanjali's writings into four chapters. Now it is not clear if Patanjali divided this into four chapters or scholars like Vyasa and others did this later. We don't know that. Nevertheless, today what we have is four chapters. The 196 sutras are divided into four chapters. The first chapter is Samadhi Pada. Samadhi Pada. Samadhi Pada means it's all about what is this Samadhi about. Yoga Sutra, it talks about Samadhi. So what are the Samadhi? What are the types of Samadhi and so on. Then comes the Sadhana Pada. The second chapter is how do we attain this. Then the third one is what happens when you attain. So that is called the Vibhuti Pada. And the fourth one is Kaivalya Pada. Patanjali explains what is the state of Kaivalya that we touched upon in the last sutra. All right. So what is this fourth sutra? The fourth sutra goes like this. Vṛtti sārupyam itaratra. Vṛtti, sārupyam, itaratra. These are three different words, but if you read the original text, it is all brought together. Samasa, as it called in Sanskrit, or Sandhi, but join all these words and make it almost like a one compounded word. Vṛtti sārupyam itaratra. A very simple, short statement. That's the beauty of these sutras, right? They are aphorisms. What does that mean? So the fourth sutra is in continuation from the second and the third. Vṛtti, we use the word Vrittis. So Vrittis here, as we have understood by now and popularly defined as modifications, impressions that are constantly being imprinted on the Chitta. We will understand from the next sutra onwards what are the types of Vrittis, not what are the types of Chitta, that is we have touched upon, but we are going to understand what are the types of Vrittis or categories of Vrittis and so on as we proceed. In the third he says, Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. So now the drashta or the seer is withdrawn unto himself, into his true self, which is the Purusha, Ishvara. Until then, until that happens, what is the case? Vṛtti sārupyam itaratra. until that oneness happens, until the state of Kaivalya happens, the drishta or the seer identifies himself, and I used himself in a very mindful, conscious way, but I don't mean him versus her. The drishta identifies himself with all the objects, with all the experiences, with all the vṛttis. Drashta becomes all of these vṛttis. So the essence of this statement, vṛtti sārupyam itaratra, is the drashta until the state of Kaivalya. In the meantime, itaratra, he identifies himself with all the other vṛttis. Let us think about this for a few moments. When I get up in the morning, I say I slept well. Or we say, I am happy, I am sad, I am in love, I ate this food. What am I doing? I am identifying myself with all the vṛttis. The I in me, the drashta in me, has now become the vṛttis. So there are many implications about this. One is a theoretical, conceptual understanding that till I attain the state of the Kaivalya, the drishta, the seer, identifies himself with all the other objects. So here, Vyasa uses a very beautiful analogy. He uses the analogy of a magnet, Kanta Mani. He uses the word Kanta Mani. Mani is magnet, Kanta is also magnet. So he talks about the power of magnet. If a magnet is brought near an iron, because of its close association, this piece of iron can also get magnetized. So when the seer, the drishta, identifies and gets so involved in the vṛttis, that he becomes the vṛttis. He appears as if the vṛttis. He identifies himself with the vṛttis. There is also another analogy that scholars use. That is the analogy of a crystal. A crystal or a spatika is pretty much transparent and colorless. That is why Shiva Lingam is called Shuddha Spatika, colorless, because it's pure in its essence. But when you take a crystal like that and put it behind a red glass, for example, then what happens? The crystal, which is otherwise colorless and pure, will be now tainted with that tint of red and will appear red to the eyes. Is that crystal really red in color? Because of that association, the crystal, which is otherwise pure, appears as red. So, until we attain the state of Ishvara, until the drishta that we defined last time in the last class, the drishta is the seer plus the mirror. You and the screen together become the drishta. So all of this, until this becomes just the one state of Kaivalya, I will continue to identify myself with my manas, mind. I will identify myself with the buddhi, ahankara, the I-ness, the chitta, memories. So I say I am guilty, I did something 10 years ago, I am freed from my guilt, I want to, I want to forgive myself, I want to forgive others, I forgive others. The I becomes the doer. I identify myself with the doership. I identify myself, the true self, with my thoughts, with my actions. The powerful implications of this aphorism. It is very clear here that the chitta is a virtual basket. A virtual basket consisting of mind, the intellect and intuition, and between these the emotions also come in. Emotions are also another form of thoughts only. So it comes as part of the mind and the intuition mixed together. Right? So mind, intuition, I-ness, the subconscious memories, impressions that are caused subliminally, all of these become the chitta. But is there a form? Does chitta have a form? When we conceptually try and understand, we separate it and say impressions on the chitta. As if chitta is sitting here and there are other impressions that are constantly being bombarded on the chitta. But truly, what does this mean? The chitta, this virtual basket, also consists of virtual entities. Mind is a virtual entity. Buddhi, intellect and intuition is also virtual. When I say virtual, it doesn't have a form, it's very subtle. Perhaps subtle is a better term. The I-ness in me is also subtle because there is no gross location for the I in this body, right? And the subliminal impressions, subconscious mind itself has no proper location. So, when all of this is subtle, when chitta itself is not a physical object, what does that mean? It becomes the thought. The closest analogy that I find peace with is water. Water has no shape, but when I take the water and pour it into a vase, then it takes the shape of the vase. If I pour it into a cup, the water takes the shape of the cup. Water by itself has no shape. So chitta by itself has no shape or form. And therefore, when an impression is on the chitta, as we say, what happens is the chitta, the mind and all of that takes that form, takes that shape. The seer himself, the drashta himself, the I in me becomes that. And that is why we say, I am happy. Or I am sad. I need liberation. I am at peace. To me, that is very powerful. When I constantly think of something, good or bad, the mind becomes that. So when I say, I hate that thing, and that thing is extremely bad, I don't want it, and we pass a judgment, a powerful emotional judgment. Oh, don't bring that in front of me at all. I don't want that. You are grammatically saying you don't want that, but at that moment, whatever it is you're running away from, that mind has become that. The chitta has become that. So guess what? What are you attracting? You are attracting that which your mind is imprinting itself. Whether you want it or you don't want it is immaterial. The fact that you're thinking about it, the mind has become that. The chitta has become that. And therefore, that particular object, that particular person, that particular event will find manifestation in our lives. Which is why teachers like Bhagavan Baba, Ramana Maharishi and so on, they said, be careful of your thoughts. Think of the highest way. Think, I am God, I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. Then what happens is, the chitta begins to identify itself with the Ishvara. It becomes Ishvara at that moment. Let's take 5 seconds, close our eyes at this moment, right? Close your eyes. Let's think of a lion, a majestic, proud lion, majestically walking down the forest. Open your eyes. That's all you need, a thought of the lion. Now, you and I would normally think that I am having a thought of the lion. But the chitta at this moment, what happened was, the chitta became the lion. The mind became the lion. And therefore, as a practicing spiritual seeker, as a sadhaka, if you will, as a practicing yogi in this path, we have to understand that every vṛtti, I become the vṛtti until I attain the state of Kaivalya. And therefore, I have to watch out for what kind of vṛttis that I am entertaining. There are vṛttis that can bind me into this false sense of I-ness, like I am happy, I am sad, and so on and so forth. I am hungry, I am guilty, and all of that. And there are vṛttis that can liberate me from who I think I am. Vṛttis are the same. They can bind you and liberate you. That is what the next aphorism teaches us. But at this point, let us understand that I become the vṛttis until I attain the state of Kaivalya. So as a practicing yogi, I need to watch out for which are the vṛttis that can bind me further. The more I keep thinking of a thought, entertaining a thought, I am becoming that very thought. I am becoming that object. And that is why even Jesus Christ says in the Bible that adultery is committed here first and then in action. What does that mean? That it is here that the reality is already imprinted. Whether I think about something, whether I actually do it, is immaterial. The fact that I am thinking about it is as good as I am doing it. So, in this class, let us understand that, and I will leave you with a small story because that will make it very clear. There was a robber and a saint, a saintly person, a robber and a saintly person. The robber, both of them lived across a street, across a very beautiful temple such as this one that we are sitting in. Incidentally, this is called the Avinashi temple, a very beautiful Shiva temple near Coimbatore in South India. And we'll deal with it and talk more in detail about it in the video about the temples. So the robber would go out to steal in the night when there were holy chants and everything taking place in the temple. But as he was stealing, the robber would think, I wish I was a good man. Somehow I'm caught up in this addiction to rob, kleptomaniacism or whatever we call it. I've become a kleptomaniac, but otherwise I would have loved to be in the temple. And so as he would rob the homes nearby or the streets nearby, his mind would always be at the temple. Oh, listen to those beautiful chants. However, I'm sad, I can't go there, I'm here robbing. The saintly person, on the other hand, would sit at the temple and he would think, how lucky is that robber? Look at him, he's a bad person, but he gets lucky, he gets all the money, and I'm here struggling to meet my ends. I'm coming to the temple every day, what am I getting out of it? I don't want to rob, I don't want to be like him, but look at what he's doing. So his mind was filled with what the robber was doing. The robber, on the other hand, was filled with the activities of the temple. And so, who actually went to the temple is a question. It is believed that the robber gets the benefit of going to the temple, and this quote-unquote saintly person becomes or is identified with the robber because the subconscious impressions on the chitta is at that point becoming the robber, becoming the holy man. So let us pay attention to where our thoughts lie. What kind of thoughts do we entertain? Thoughts, emotions, all of this, because every moment when chitta entertains a particular emotion or a thought, the chitta becomes that. Are these emotions of fear, insecurity, low self-esteem? I can convince 10 people that I am very confident and all, but what are my innermost conscious and subconscious feelings I need to watch out for, because the chitta is becoming that. And therefore, I create a reality, I create a chitta, I identify myself with something that can bind me, or I have an opportunity to identify myself with something that will eventually liberate me. Vritti is like a key. You turn it to the right, it liberates you. You turn it to the left, it locks you. And so the fourth aphorism of Patanjali is vṛtti sārupyam itaratra. Until I attain the state of Kaivalya, I will identify myself with all these vṛttis. And thus we have the summary of the entire Yoga Sutras. Going forward, we will study what are these vṛttis that can bind us or liberate us, what are the types, and we'll delve into each one. This is a very slow and a patient study. Take time. Don't jump from one class to another or one video to another. Meditate on each one and see how it applies to you, and then decide your progress. There is no fast or slow progress. The quality of progress is determined by your ability to assimilate the teachings of these ancient sages. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me this divine opportunity to share things that matter the most. Stay blessed. Stay inspired. Namaste.
Clean Kaivalya